It's been a while since we connected, and a lot has changed in the world and is changing in this period that we have not been in touch. What I would love to share with you is a sort of a study, a view, an observation that's probably just mapped in my head. You could call it part conspiracy if you want to. You could just call it as a flight of imagination. But the actual world currently that we are living in is far more imaginative and far more complex. So, even if you want to dismiss it as just a flight of imagination, I would ask you or request you to just listen in. Let's just have a hypothetical situation where you have a lab and there are a lot of rats under study. Now, the rats will come under various categories of study, and based on how they could be categorized, they would be controlled, eliminated, or made use of. And so let's first look at who would be easily removed. Immediately belligerent, the rebels, the dissenters, the disruptors, the agitators, the most brilliant rats, but which are seeking a way out or which are sensing that they are part of a study. Now, they are the ones who would be first removed if one is trying to bring down or manipulate or rechange the way that the study in the lab is going to go with the rats. So, the most alert rats, the rats that sense basically they are under study, they may not want to be. So, the rebels, the dissenters, the disruptors, the agitators, the brilliant, and that category of rats would be the first and the most easily identifiable and removed. Then we have what I would call the stupid mass. Now, these can be eliminated, trained, entertained, used, abused, manipulated. Now, when I said that the immediately belligerent, the first category, the rebels, the dissenters, the disruptors, the agitators, the brilliant, they're not going to be removed at one go. So they would be removed in layers through intimidation, through sometimes assassination, elimination, legal, new laws, silencing. Okay, so we do agree that while we would be using sort of a imagery of a lab and rats, we do know we're not talking about rats. I think we agree on that, don't we? So we come to the second category, as I was telling you, the stupid mass. Now they are eliminated, trained, entertained, used, abused, manipulated, and this will be done through many ways. It would be done through bio, through economic, through religious, through war, through as many forms of elimination as possible. And we have the enablers, people who, okay, we're no longer talking about rats. Yes, we have done a switch over to people. We are talking about people. But yes, sometimes just for or as a flight of imagination, we would every now and then go to the rat example just for us to drive home a point if needed. So the enablers are people who would help keep the system going by keeping the systems on and ensuring the systems do not collapse until the chosen time of collapse. So both the idealist and the high performing achievers, the do-gooders, the safely blind, all of them are enablers because they help to keep the chaos at bay until a chosen time where the chaos doesn't matter for who that we would come to at the end. So the enablers are all the people who keep the system going. They ensure that the system will not collapse until the chosen time. And they're either really fooled or they are hoping that being very close to those who control the system and by being an enabler, they could be safe. We then have category number 4, the morally corrupt, the brainwashed, egomaniacs who would be made to think that they are the chosen few in order to facilitate everything. Now, these are different because they are a fewer in number. They may be political leaders, they may be other leaders, they may be religious leaders, they may be people who are perceived as leaders but who are actually not. So they are the morally corrupt, the brainwashed, the egomaniacs who would be made to think that they are the chosen few in order to facilitate everything. So they become powerful agents through which work gets done by propping them up into some sort of a very highly chosen spot. The thing is that those spots are just gateways to be able to get a lot of things done. And they could be eliminated at any point when your work or the usability goes down. We then have the walking dead, category number 5, the walking dead, who are more or less done because they're exhausted and will go through the motions of life until clinically dead. So there is no amount of fear, no amount of information, no amount of inspiration that can budge these people. They are actually literally the walking dead. We then have the category number 6, the emotional, the dreamers, the confused, the ones who sense that something is on, but who really can't do much. These are the feelers of the system. So they continuously agitate themselves. They will do themselves in, and in any case won't pose any threat because all they would be is in a very highly strung nervous state of agitation, fear. They sense change. They sense catastrophe in the making. They know that there are things out there that's changing beyond a point of no return. All they can do is feel deeply, watch helplessly, feel confused, and feel emotional about it. They don't have a grip of anything. We then come to the category number 7, the alert and the awake ones that would be smart enough to figure a way out, who can think, plan, connect the dots. These are the thinkers, the alerters. Now, they will help to create a smarter system, and once sufficient knowledge transfer is done, they too will be eliminated because they are also useful because the alert and the awake ones are the ones which actually reveal the gaps in the system, which the chosen few, the real people who actually are controlling the power of the world, the assets of the world, not the money, not the superficial capital and economics of the world, but the actual wealth of the planet. Now, the chosen few would actually be easy to identify, some of them, some not. They would systematically make sure that the immediately belligerent, the stupid mass, the enablers, the morally corrupt, the walking dead, the emotional dreamers, and the alert and awake ones. Now, every single category, these 7 categories that I've identified, these are completely my identification. These 7 categories of people whom we have identified, all of them are going to be eliminated because they all serve either a short term purpose or a specific purpose, but ultimately they are a burden for the chosen few. What are the chosen few doing? They are consolidating physical assets, they're building bunkers, they're looking at outbound like space, they are increasing threats, bio, cyber, eco, political, and testing it out at every point to see to what extent the systems are holding, and so that it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. So one was, say COVID, and now you might have a sudden outage of software that could just literally paralyze the world. All these are testing to see how much of resistance is there, how much of understanding, and to what is the extent of people that can be eliminated through these. Even things like solutions, like one currency, one control, one bank. Why is all of these happening at the same time? Because it's coming closer and closer to the time where the chosen few would largely be controlling the entire planet. They would live like the chosen few. Some of them are even attempting or looking at end of mortality and immortality. They are looking at AI as a powerful tool to take care of all what the stupid mass would would have done. They are going to be using the alert and awake, a lot of them, to basically what they would do is create enough knowledge and then have the knowledge transfer happening into things like the AI, have a very limited bunch of people who basically would continue to enable, because the enablers, that's their core function. The enablers will always continue to enable, but they would keep the systems running even after all the knowledge transfer. They need, I mean, the planet or the system or the world would need a limited bunch of people who would continue to enable. The rest would be done by AI, so that all these immediate belligerent, the stupid mass, the morally corrupt, the walking dead, the emotional dreamers, all of them, they don't serve any purpose anymore because they're just absolute garbage to the chosen few. They're not needed. They have no function other than they've outlived their purpose. So the only ones who would be reasonably useful would actually be the alert and awake ones who would literally show where the gaps in the systems lie They would also, at some point, reveal the exact time where the shift should happen, where the transfer of actual control and power and elimination of the rest would happen. And the enablers, a certain bunch of them, would, especially the same enablers of today, are not going to be the enablers of the period after the shift has happened, because the enablers are always chosen based on what they could enable. It's the function of enable that becomes critical, not the individuals who are enabling. The individuals think that because they're enabling, they become important in the system or they can stay close to the change. But it is really not the individuals who are important. It is the process of enabling that is important. So the enablers will always be kept, a limited few who would keep the planet running, who would work for the chosen few with very little power, and who would actually keep the systems running, because at the core, that's what they can do, and that's all their main function is. And the funny thing is, the alert ones cannot really wake up the huge number, because the more alarm bells they ring, the more the huge numbers would numb, thinking that they're safe. So if an alert one actually is trying to wake up this huge number, the immediate belligerent, most of them are already in a state of either intimidation, assassination, elimination, legal. They're all already bound, and we've seen them across countries. You'll know individuals, you'll know organizations which are steadily the dissenters, the disruptors. They're all brilliant people. They're hardworking people who have a legacy of having done work for society, but they are the immediately visible belligerent ones, and they have tried awakening. Somewhere the immediately belligerent ones have some of the sensible ones are the ones who have then gone on to become more of alert in a way, because they realize that being immediately belligerent is actually going to be dangerous. So most of the alert and awake ones are quieter, more you would see it in the way that they talk. They measure their words. They are careful about how they are revealing what is happening, the way that they are connecting the dots. So they are definitely speaking only in a minimal way at the right circles, only to the extent that currently is required, because being very visibly open as immediately belligerent is going to mark them. So the alert ones really cannot wake up any of them. The stupid mass is never going to awake. The enablers wouldn't care, because just enabling and being close to the chosen few, they believe is the only way to keep them safe. The morally corrupt, any which way, are just going to be useful in order for the takeover of the planet. They would also obviously have no other purpose than that. And The Walking Dead is anyway done. They're just going to be, not triggered by anything that you're going to show them. And the emotional dreamers and the ones who are agitated through feeling and sensing are not actually going to help them. So they're not going to do anything. However, the more you alert them, the more they're going to get agitated and emotional. So it doesn't work. This is where we are headed. There are some countries which are marked into this as testing place. Definitely, India is one of them, but there are many pockets of the world where that's happening. Why is India so important in this study and shift? Because it's like a testing ground. It has one-fifth of the rat population, if you want to call it that. It's got the most diverse and the least homogeneous, and it has a great number of every category, and it will resist in pockets. So the study of understanding what is the nature of resistance and how to kind of look at methods to eliminate, a lot of that is done through study of India. It would help. If you even just take the news of the world today, just randomly scroll through every country, you have a deep sense that people are waking up to something that's happening out there. People are realizing that a lot of what they consider as money is not really money, that they don't have much wealth left, and that the most of the wealth is getting consolidated. That the very, very rich and the chosen few, the visible, there are lots of the chosen few who are not visible, who work in the background. But even in the visible, again, the chosen few are kept as a test to sort of openly, brazenly do this, so that the others, and to study the effect visible chosen few onto the others, to see how they're responding. Are they admiring? Are they resisting? Are they willing to enable? I mean, basically, it is about using them as a front cover to understand how the people are viewing the chosen few. So this is exactly where the world stands. Things have changed forever. Where is Miraki in the middle of all that? Where is the ability to pour our love and life into everything that we do? Probably that is going to be the biggest resistance, because in some sense, when we are in connect with our own bodies, with our own minds, where we are still having a deep sense of life, which is in pockets, untouched by technology, untouched by manipulation, untouched by media, untouched by messages that are meant to make us brain dead, that are intentionally created for us to become belligerent, that are trying to test whether we're the stupid mass, that are trying to see if we are the emotional stupid dreamers. A lot of it, we have to first understand who we are, which category do we belong to. Now, that itself is a huge exercise because obviously walking dead would not even know that they're walking dead because they've gone beyond it. So, is there something that we can actually do about anything after having heard me through? Yes, there are a few things that one can do. One, actually give this some amount of thought instead of just calling it fanciful. Actually go through and understand and start connecting the dots for your own self. Really take a hard look at who exactly you are in the system. Start identifying people, associations, things, concepts around you that fall under these different categories. Reclaim what you have, which is called a life. The reclamation itself is going to disrupt a lot of things because it one at the outside it's going to delay. It's going to delay the takeover. And once we have bought ourselves some time, then there is a lot more that we can then look at bringing out as a way of countering this takeover. That is almost impossible to fight. It is definitely the chosen few against the rest of the world. The thing is that who is going to win? At this point in time, most of the wealth is consolidated by the chosen few and it is steadily on. They are definitely building safety bunkers and definitely they are looking at a way out of this planet. It feels like the chosen few are acting like this planet has no end and it is not a finite planet with finite resources, but really, they are the ones who truly, truly know that this is a finite planet with finite resources. What they want to do is to enjoy this finite planet with finite resources in an infinite way. And they believe that they are the ones who have the absolute right over the planet's future, resources, and its enjoyment. And all the rest of us are just pure trash. I know this is not a very positive, peppy, a slice of Meraki, but Meraki is the ability to juice life out of everything. And to be able to juice life out of everything, we need to be actually alive. We need to be able to exist. And taking small slices of Meraki every day, every moment, every second from now on is a massive, massive act of resistance. Have a wonderful day, evening, and please take pause and hear this out seriously.